Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of MTD. I am in North America, more specifically Ellesmere, Kentucky, and I am with my friend Stan from Martin Trunnion Tables. Stan started this company in 1991 in a two-car garage. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what Martin Trunnion does and how they can help you with your machining needs. So, Stan, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being a part of MTD.
Sounds great. Let's get rolling.
Absolutely, my friend. So, Martin Trunnion, during my days of working in the machine shops, I've found incredible use for something very similar that we're looking at right here. Would you mind explaining to our audience what this is and what are some of the greatest benefits to adapting this to a current CNC?
This particular fixture is our triangle fixture, and the beauty of a triangle fixture is that you're not, if you use a tombstone fixture or something like that, you're always have trouble with tool clearance. With a triangle fixture, you don't have that. Another great thing about all the fixtures that we build is our motto is stop handling, start machining. We like to load up as much work holding onto a fixture as we possibly can so that the operator loads it, walks away for hours, comes back hours later, takes the completed parts off, puts fresh parts on, hits cycle start, and walks away.
So the concept is, so I'm going to break this down for some of the audience that understand what a vise is, and typically everyone has a vise in their mill, right? I mean, that's how we machine things most of the time. Sometimes we have a chuck. But we're looking at something here from KOMA Precision, and this KOMA Precision device allows us to adapt multiple work holding onto a fixture that spins 360 degrees. Is that how this KOMA Precision adaptation works?
Correct. So we use the KOMA, in this particular setup, we're using a KOMA rotary table, but everything you see from the orange plate to the black cylinder here is our design. We adapted this with the Triag Vise modules on two sides, and I'll rotate it here in a minute and show you that we've got dovetail vices on the third side. So we make everything you see from the orange plate over. And we make these in a million different configurations. We've got hexes, we've got four-sided, we got single-sided, we got double-sided. Everything you can think of, we've probably made or are in the process of making. We have a service plate over there right now that the items that are in here for final inspection, and we have a double-sided, a four-sided, a single-sided, and a six-sided. So we do make them in every possible configuration you can think of. We put grid patterns on them. We put ball locks on them. Pretty much everything you need to have an efficiently ran shop, we put on these Trunnion tables. And then we're talking both manual vices, pneumatic vices, hydraulic work holding. We get into all of that.
And when would I most want to consider working with a type of setup like this? Is this primarily or solely in a 3-axis CNC mill, or are there other applications where this can go?
Primarily in a 3-axis CNC mill. We build these same type fixtures for horizontal mills, but it's mainly for 3-axis vertical mills. Because in the US anyway, vertical machine centers are the #1 item that you see in machine shops and manufacturing facilities. So that has been our focus for years, is taking care of the guys with the Haas DMCs, the Mazaks, the Doosan's. Those are the guys that, they're our bread and butter, they're our customer base.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what we're talking about here, and I want to break this down, I want to continually make sure that everyone understands, because you're the expert. And what happens a lot of times is you know your product so well, and I want to explain it in the ways of someone who doesn't know it quite as well, right? So in most machine shops right now, there's a vise sitting on a table, maybe even 2 or 3 vices sitting on a table, and a mill comes straight down and can machine the tops and the sides of these parts. What we're doing is we're offering now multiple fixturing from multiple parts that can also rotate to hit more than just that top and that side, whether it be, you know, an outside contour or an interpolation from the top or whatever it might be. We're hitting multiple sides now.
The beauty of a fixture like this is that even with a very simple part like this, that you wouldn't think about using a trunnion table on, this part you would have to handle 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 times to do that simple of a part. So you would need 5 vices lined up on your machine tool just to machine that simple part. And we give you the ability to put this part in there one time. You just saved 5 handlings. So that's why our slogan is stop handling, start machining. You know, I don't know how you can make money on a part like this without doing it the way we're doing it.
I agree, and I think that's an excellent point is, and I'll make it how I used to machine. You said 5 setups. So even if I don't have 5 vices with 5 different setups on my table that I have to move apart from piece to piece to piece, what I used to have to do is take that one vice that I had and rotate every single time and then touch off again every single time I needed to locate a new hole or a new edge or whatever it might be. So you were saving me a ton of setup time with a trunnion like this.
Exactly. Like a lot of our customers make manifold blocks with these, and I can't tell you, before I started designing and building these fixtures, we ran a lot of manifold blocks here, right? And we did them the old way, flip, 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 flip. And I can't tell you, at the end of the day, you'd have 100 parts. At the end of the day, the operator would come to me and say, Mr. Martin, I scrapped 2 parts. I flipped the block the wrong direction. All right, so this is a perfect example of, you know, you stare at this block all day as an operator, and you're doing hundreds and hundreds of these. It's so easy to pick that block up and put it in there wrong. So say this side only has 2 holes and this side has 1 hole. You know, I feel for operators that do that all day long, have to flip apart 6, 7 times to get a completed part, as opposed to putting it in this fixture and you don't have to handle it twice, right? So you do this end, this top, and this end in one setup, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. So you are able to do 6 sides of a part in 2 handlings versus 6. No brainer. To
me, it's a no-brainer as well, and I've liked your products and the concept of this idea for a long, long time. I'm a big fan of taking a 3-axis machine, adding one of these guys in there, and really knocking out productivity. In a world where some people may not be able to afford a new machine, maybe a new 5-axis machine or whatever it might be, in order to do something similar, adding a component like this is far more affordable, really takes that uptime much higher, because what we're trying to do, and uptime as in spindle runtime.
Right.
What we're trying to do is keep that spindle running as often as possible, and a product like this is extremely beneficial to doing something like that.
Of course, everybody's into this 5th-axis craze right now, 5-axis machine center craze, and they have their place, no question. But what we're finding, we got customers coming back to us now and buying tombstones and triangles, so forth and so on, because what they've realized is that at the end of the day, using a tombstone or any kind of multi-sided fixture like this, at the end of the day, they have a lot more parts. Because when that tool changer, you go, say you got a 10 tool changer or 10 tools in a program, every time it makes a tool change, you're doing every single part. You're doing 10 parts, 20 parts, whatever, versus 1.
That's right, and I don't think people think about that all the time. I think they think about what we talked about a second ago, which was, okay, I got to pick up my part, now I got to flip it over, now I got to flip it over again, but they don't think about it is actually a significant cycle time reduction to stick with one cutting tool for multiple parts before doing a tool change. And that tool change, there's some great machines out there that can do it in a second or 3 seconds or 2 seconds, right? But add those up through multiple parts, through multiple tool changes. Most parts have 5, 6, 10, 20 different cutting tools that they're adding. So the longer you can stick to it, obviously we're reducing that cycle time and getting that return on investment.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you said it way better than I could, so.
Well, that was an absolute accident because you are the expert. So, but you have different sizes for this. So when I'm looking at this one right now that's in front of us, that the camera's viewing for us right now, this one in, say, well, we're looking at a Haas behind us, so let's take a Haas product. Let's say we're looking at a VF2. That would pretty much take up the whole table.
Right.
But what if I want to have a standard work holding vise and then also a Martin trunnion table setup? I can do both of those, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can make these literally any length you want. So we cast everything in various lengths, and the reason we do that is, like for a VF2, you may want VF2 has 30 inches of X travel, has a 36-inch table. So what we try to do is if the customer wants to, we'll fill that table up with a fixture that covers the whole 30 inches of travel. But what a lot of customers want to do is they want to machine small parts in a small area, and then at the end of the tombstone or trunnion, whatever they purchase, they might want to put a Kurt Vise there just to have there for one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to, a lot of people think that it's difficult to program a one-off part with a tombstone or triangle, whatever, but it's really not once you get used to it. But because of that, we allow people to put, a lot of people want to put just a vise at the end of the setup that we have here on the table.
Yeah, I can imagine the comfort zones tells us we still need our original setup somewhere in the machine, and this is going to be for something special. But to your point, once you're comfortable with this, you can do a one-off on this as well.
You can. And that's actually the very first one I ever made. I was doing, when we started our shop 30 years ago, I built all the fixtures, right? So I was doing that, building fixtures all day long, every day with a vertical mill and a Kurt Vise. I got tired of that. I got tired of building fixtures, and that's how I came up with the idea to build a trunnion table. Not that that's a novel idea, people have done it in the past, but I thought it was a novel idea. I'd never seen one before because I started my own shop. I'd never worked in another shop before. So I built the very first one to use internally because I was sick of building fixtures. I got tired of building fixtures all day long every day, and I realized, just with a simple trunnion table with a Kurt Vise on it, I'm able to do multiple sides of a part, and I would do one-offs all day long. I mean, the time it takes to set up a sign plate at a weird angle versus going to my control and saying, hey, go to 34 degrees and come down and mill that surface, I don't even know how to describe the time difference. It's huge.
It is a massive difference. I'd love to see some calculations on that, and you've said it best. Stop handling, start machining.
Yeah.
The less we can handle. So now that we understand how this trunnion table works, we understand we are quite literally taking a vise that we're very used to already. So you guys, you don't need to be afraid there's going to be some new contraption out there you haven't seen. We're talking about, I would like for you to mention some of your partners in just a second, but we're talking about a standard vise that you're used to that just lays flat on a table. Now we're putting it on a device that just kind of moves it around so you can machine from multiple angles. We know how this works now. So let's go a little bit into the work holding itself that goes on here. Okay. Some of the partners that you have and the fact that you have some manual vices and some hydraulic vices and then a whole gambit of options for your customers, right?
Yeah, so on this particular unit, whenever we do multiple side fixtures, we really like this Triag product because it allows you to move these little vise modules any place you need them for your size part. They don't take up much room. They're extremely well made. These are made in Switzerland. They're an awesome unit. I'm going to turn this control box on so you can see it rotating and maybe get a better idea of how you can use this particular fixture. So you see it rotating around. On this side we've got some dovetail vices. On two sides we have the Triag vices. This side we have dovetail vices, which a lot of people use, are industry standard. But at the same time, you could this whole deck could be a 2-inch grid pattern, or you could have multiple Kurt vices on here. The possibilities are endless. You could have special fixtures on here that made up to a 2-inch grid pattern. Virtually anything.
So I know a lot of companies that have these great pallet change systems. And some of the advantages to that are the fact that I can run 6, 7, 8, however many pallets I have, individual products without having to run 100 products at one time with this pallet change. It just repeats itself. Mm-hmm. What you're describing to me here is I could run on one side nearly a finished product, because we're hitting most of the sides. On the next side, as it rotates around, I can have a completely new product with new vices. And on the third side, I can have a completely new product with a completely different story that's told along with it, right? And so,
exactly,
as you say, the combinations and the creativity behind it are endless. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be. You are the expert. You do tri-sided, quadruple-sided, double-sided. So this rotating piece here, you can adapt as well as the vices that go onto the rotating piece.
Exactly. Yeah, we make them virtually any, from single-sided up to 8-sided fixtures.
Up to 8-sided fixtures.
Up to 8-sided fixtures, yes.
So, Stan, we're looking at this right now. We've talked about how this can be beneficial. The return on investment seems to be almost instantaneous. We're talking about keeping that spindle running, which is what we need to do to stay competitive on a global scale. We talked about how price conscious it is to a machine shop that might already have 100 3-axis machines instead of having to get rid of all those machines to move into a 5-axis. So the adaptation into this is really significant for that as well. Is this as fast as it'll go?
No, it absolutely will not. This thing flies.
Well, one question I think the guys out there might have, because we're definitely, nailing the concept of being able to run multiple machines at a time, being able to run multiple parts at a time, less setup. We've repeated it again, stop handling, start machining. Yeah. But let's say I'm setting this up for the very first time. Is that difficult?
No, not at all. You can do it a couple different ways, and I explained this to a lot of our customers over and over again, but you can program this either from centerline or rotation. So we would supply you with a 3D solid model of this entire setup. Any of our setups come with solid models right off the bat. And so you can program from centerline and rotation, or you can use multiple work offsets. So you could call one side G54, the other side G55, the middle side G56. And if you're doing one part, which I used to do all the time, that's the way I would do it, just because it's fast and easy. Mm-hmm. But any job that you have that's a repeat job, I would recommend you programming from centerline and rotation, because that way the operator only has to set the tools once, pick up one offset, and the program takes care of the rest. Virtually any CAM software out there on the market today will take care of that for you automatically.
Stan, I think that's great advice, and I think it's what our audience wants to hear, because the thing is that because we're so familiar with something like this, there's obviously someone out there that is not.
Right.
And these types of questions come up. Okay, yeah, I have this great new product that I can set up a whole bunch of work holding on, but it's going to take me, 3 times or 10 times as long to set up the thing. But that's just not the case, is it?
Not at all. I mean, I don't care what part you're making, whether it's this one in a single station vise or putting on here, you still have to pick up the part multiple times. Why not just let the machine do the work instead of you doing it?
That's exactly right. In the world of automation, that's exactly right. Let the machines do the work.
Right, right.
Well, this one here that we're looking at, for the most part, this is all, I'm going to need a wrench, right, to lock my parts down, and I'm going to need to unlock my parts. But you have other options as well for someone who wants to be even more automated, something in hydraulic, right?
Right.
And that's sitting behind me here.
Correct.
So let's switch sides and let's jump into the topic of,
awesome. I'd love to.
What we're working on here.
This particular fixture, we're showing 2 SCHUNK KSP 160 vices, which we use a lot. SCHUNK makes a great product, and the product works extremely well with our trunnion tables because, again, stop handling, start machining. You can either manually load these vices with an M code or a switch on the side of it to open and close them, or you can do it robotically. And a lot of companies, we work with a lot of robotic companies around the country that are using this exact setup to load parts.
Well, that makes sense to me, Stan, and it makes sense on multiple levels like an onion. It makes sense because based on what we were talking about here, our entire spiel to the great people watching right now is to continue machining, to keep that spindle running, to machine multiple sides of a part, to not load and unload, reduce the tool changes, all that kind of stuff. So the ultimate goal is to get more out of a day, right? Or allow operators to run multiple machines throughout their day. Now we're adding something like this SCHUNK vise, something like a pneumatic vise, which allows a robot to get involved as well. So we're taking the concept of what we're doing here and taking it one step further to automate it even more.
Correct. And there's a lot of positives about doing this besides the huge increase in productivity. I think another big positive is it keeps a prospect walks into your shop and they see that you're doing stuff in this really cool fashion using hydraulic pneumatic work holding with a robot. It really is a good recruiting tool because the smarter guys, the smarter women out there, they don't want to load parts all day manually. they love the idea of being able to be a part of the company's growth and bringing additional robots in and additional work holding in to make the company more successful. So we use this really as a recruiting tool also. We love to show people that, you know, prospects walking into our door, hey, this is the type of stuff you're going to be building.
Guys, we've said it before and we're going to say it again right now. Automation, do not be afraid that it's taking jobs. It is adding jobs. And what it's actually doing is removing the mundane work from us so that we can get back to the creativity and the productivity that we want to do.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this all seems like somewhat sophisticated technology, especially since for a guy like me who grew up running, you know, a 3-axis machine with 1 vise in it and, you know, fairly basic programming. I even used to program from an Excel spreadsheet, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
But did it always start this way, or was there a beginning? How did this all come about?
In the beginning, I think I hit on it earlier, but in the beginning, I was tired of making fixtures the whole part. So I came up with the idea of this single-sided trunnion table, and I just literally had a Kurt Vise mounted onto it. And even to this day, unless the customer asks that the Kurt Vise key not be in it, as they come off the horizontal machines, they will have a vise in there for multiple, a slot in there for multiple Kurt Vises. So that, because again, for shops that are doing this for the first time, which there's the vast majority of the shops we sell to, this is new to them. Even to this, even today, this is new to the vast majority of shops that we sell to. It's easier for them to understand, all right, I'm just going to hold 1 part right now. I'm going to put a Kurt Vise in here and I'm going to hold 1 part. And that is the way I would suggest getting started if you've never done something like this before. So to take that 1 step farther, what we do for a lot of the companies that we do these fixtures for, this is what we call our shelf unit. So it'll have a vise on top and bottom, or just top, or on 3 sides or 4 sides. Again, how we like to use multiple sides of a fixture. This allows a shop to just mount this to the rotary table, and at the end of the fixture have a vise or a chuck or a special fixture that they like to keep on the machine table to be running and operating all the time. So these have been extremely popular in the last couple of years for people running dovetail vices or single station vices like this Orange Vise. You can put any vise, manufacturer's vise on here you want. 9 out of 10 times we do the machining for the vise mounting pattern for you so that when you get it, it's ready to go.
Stan, I think you're spot on. And what I think you nailed is that even though this is technology that is incredibly useful, and you said you started this company around 1991, there's still people who don't understand the technology, and education removes fear. And if we wanted to find you guys, if someone goes, man, that Stan guy, I'm excited about that product and I want to learn more, how can we find you? Do you have social media, website? Where can they look you up?
TrunnionTable.com. We're on, of course, LinkedIn with Tony, Facebook, Instagram. We're on all the social media sites. Michael Martin is probably the one that you'll talk to. He is the king of the social media. I know how to make fixtures. I don't know how to do social media.
Well, we can't all do it all, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
Steve Jobs is one of my favorite guys. He said, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Exactly. And that's easy in my case.
Mine too. We have that in common. So again, thank you for being a part of MTD CNC. I really appreciate your time. Time is valuable, and thank you for educating me more on the Martin Trunnion tables.
You're welcome.